off tonight. So first of all, thank you all so much for coming along to join us. It's actually really nice. This is the first time that we've done an event session this side of the new year. And it's the first time that we've done a bit of an event organizer specific session. A lot of everything so far before has been either mixed in with the officials and other volunteers, or it's been quite COVID specific. So what we're going to be doing tonight is a wee bit of a session on working with external partners. I suppose at the outset to say, this is not going to be a COVID related session necessarily. I'm not going to run us through return to competition guidance or any of the kind of parameters of that at this stage. Those sessions will be coming up once we know when we've got that sort of date for returning to competition back up and on the go. So hopefully we're going to be doing something a little bit useful, hopefully more than a little bit useful, but something that we can sort of make the most of, and that you'll be able to sort of think a wee bit sort of strategically about your events and sort of work as a group to do it. So we're going to be on for about 60 minutes tonight. You've got myself, who's Morven, who I think I know everyone on this call anyways, unless anyone's slipped in since I last checked the attendance list. And Ashley's also on the call tonight, driving the behind the scenes for us. And you'll get a wee wave from her. So what we're going to look at tonight is a wee bit around the added value of external partners, how to identify them, sort of how you pitch yourself, and retaining external partners. So we're going to be on for about 60 minutes. You're going to listen to me talking for a wee bit, and we're going to do some breakout rooms and some talking. So if you're all able to sort of unmute yourself at that point, that's great. If you want to use the chat section of the Zoom call, then pop stuff in the chat sort of as we're going through. If you've got any questions, stick your hands up. I should be able to see that somewhere, and if I can't see that, Ashley, you can just give me a wee shout if I'm missing it, because I'm screen sharing. But also use the chat box, chat amongst each other. So if my clicker's going to work. Wonderful. So just starting off to think about the added value of external partners. So when we say external partners, we're talking about a whole range of people that will come together to make your event more impactful. So it can be a way to sort of maximise what you're doing with a small volunteer team, whether it's yourself, your club, your event delivery team, and sort of maximising what you're currently working with in order to deliver more to the riders, the spectators, and the people that come along and be part of your event. So there's lots of ways to think about how external partners can add that value, whether it's strategically, financially, obviously. Alongside that, you've got your value in kind and promotion and status, which are quite your typical ways of thinking about partners. But there is also the operational and quite functional side of external partners. So tonight isn't necessarily just about that sponsorship piece. It's about the whole range of external partners that can come together to work with you as a volunteer or an event organizer in order to help maximise what you are delivering in terms of your event. So first of all, just thinking about identifying external partners. Now, some of you are going to be really good at this already, and some of it is quite basic, but in order to think about it, needing to determine whether you want or need these external services. So thinking about whether they're critical to event delivery or whether they're going to add value, whether they're going to enhance what you're already delivering. We're going to touch on these a little bit more detail later when I send you guys off into rooms, but just as some examples, some of the things that you're going to need are landowner or HQ permission. You can't run an event without that. That's not a want, that's a must. Also, first aid. Some of the things that might be a bit more of a nice to have might be prize sponsors, media partners, or volunteer recruitment source. So first of all, just so we think about whether the partners that are sort of in your mind, whether they're absolutely critical to the event delivery if you couldn't do it without them, or whether they're someone that will sort of add value. They feel critical, but are they really critical to what you're trying to achieve? Sorry guys, I've lost all my clocks. There we go. Fab. So Wonderful. So first off, just thinking about some of these needed external services, so the people that you have to work with, whether you like it or not. And when I say needed external services, I'm talking about the group as a whole. Obviously, within each of these services, you have got options for which partner you choose to work with. And we'll touch a little bit more on that later in this session. So you do need to think about who you have to work with, and then you might be able to think about who you want to work with. When we're talking about the ones that you need to work with, it is more likely that there will be strict timelines. For those of you that have organised your events through Scottish Cycling previously, you'll know that you do get a lot of emails from us reminding you if you're not quite keeping to those deadlines. Similarly, your venue, you're going to have to book it at a set time out. When you're thinking about the services that you do need to work with, think about the cost effectiveness. Is there good reviews of people that you've already worked with? Is there a tender process that you can do in order to find out if you're sort of going to be able to pick the best partner for your situation? When we're talking about the ones that you need to work with, won't be offended if you see Scottish Cycling as someone that you need to work with rather than want to work with. Love you to put me in the want pile, but fundamentally, I do appreciate that we are a service that you maybe do need to work with for your event. In this, you may also sort of think about the ones that you need at a basic level and how you could sort of upgrade that. Will that provide a better service or enhance the experience for your riders, spectators, volunteers? Remember, it's not necessarily just the riders in an event that are the ones that you're needing to service. It's everyone that comes along with them, the mums and dads, the friends and family, the people that drive into races hundreds of miles around the country. How can you give them something worthwhile for their day out and make them think that they want to bring their rider back to your race year on year? So in terms of thinking about these partners and picking them, and this goes for both the partners that you need to work with and those that you want to work with, you do need to pick the right partner to absolutely make sure that what happens to your event is better, attracting new audiences, decreasing costs, and also boosting the value of their brand and the value of your event. So first of all, you need to think about what your event values are. You might do this internally as the lead event organizer. You might do it with your club, the event delivery team. You might already have these identified for your event or for your club. Think about what matters to you, whether the event is very inclusive, whether it's entry level, whether it's supportive for good health, what it is that really makes you tick and why you do your event. And then think about whether it is essential that your event partner matches these values. So is this something that is really, really important, that you've got a value in there that you absolutely will not compromise on, and you need sort of everyone involved in the delivery of the event, all your stakeholders and partners to buy into that value too, if it's boosting community engagement, if it's good health, etc., or if it's something that you've got a little bit more flex on, and then obviously working it from there. Thinking about what scope for that flexibility you've got and what you would compromise on in terms of your values for a lucrative partner. Obviously, what this doesn't tell you is how to find out the values of your external partners and whether they do align with yours. That'll probably come down later, but you can start to ask others that have worked with them previously, look at reviews and think of their perception. Fab. Sorry, my clicker's got a little bit of a lag in it, which is why you hear me muttering every time I need to change slides. So in terms of thinking about who is out there, and I'm sure you will have all done this a lot of times previously, quite often when you're trying to get people to do volunteering, to do sign on, to do the cake stall, all these bits and bobs, but start on your own doorstep. Think of the people that you know. If you've got existing relationships, can you maximize them? And this isn't just to think necessarily of sponsors. This is to think of the additional services that you need in place to make your event happen. Is there already people in your community that carry out those essential services, the partners that you may need to work with alongside those that could add value? So think within your event delivery team, speak to your friends, families. They don't need to be cyclists. They don't even need to know one end of a bike from another. They may want to help contribute something to make your event happen because they care about you. If you can, then focus on links to cycling and cycling events, people that you know are already out there wanting to get involved in this world. Seek out the partners in your local community, the ones that may operate out of where your event is. If you're sort of wanting to think on that wider scale and perhaps looking to that bigger network, consider companies who might have potential CSR budget that are looking to offset what they're doing and that may be able to throw you a couple of pounds here and there. And harness the power of social media. Do you already have someone working with your club, working with your community, or working with your event who could tag this on? Thereafter, get yourself a long list and try and work out what those aims and connections would be, why you would be working with those people, and how you would approach them. And then thinking about whether they are the right partner for your event. So we now know your values and we now know the people that you might be interested in approaching to work with in your event, both those that you need to and those that you want to. So this is where you need to consider if they really are worth that approach. If it's going to be someone that will add the value to your event, how long is it going to take and will it be impactful? So consider whether they have got the space that they will be able to provide for your event. Have they got the money? Have they got the time? And do we think that they'd be willing to work with you? That's not to say that if someone's on your list and they don't meet any of that criteria, it's not worth asking them. Sometimes a wee speculative message doesn't go far wrong to start those relationships. So it's really important to consider who within your event delivery team will be managing that relationship. I'm sure those of you that have done this many times before will know that sometimes one of the most trying parts of working with sponsors can be servicing those sponsors and setting up those relationships. So think about how long that's going to take and what other priorities they may have. If there's someone within your event delivery team that already works with partners regularly for a living, whether that's in terms of engaging local communities or working with other stakeholders, then see if you can use those transferable skills. Likewise, if there's people that are absolute sponsorship and social media whizzes, then get them involved in that side of it. What you want to do is have a wee think about what these partners might want to gain. What would be the deliverables that they would be looking for to achieve? You're purely speculating at this stage unless you've worked with them previously, but do have a wee think about why they might want to work with you. You're also going to want to consider whether they should become a stakeholder in the event delivery team. Do they have something that they can contribute? Is it going to be necessary for them to be there? For example, someone like your local facility provider, who would be a stakeholder that you have to work with, might be really important for them to be on that event delivery team and be a key contributing person that will be able to help you come up with scheduling, timetabling, and establish the things that the riders need to know. And finally, consider quite honestly whether they would add the benefit and value to your event and whether they'll be able to make you something better than what you're already going to be. So this is where I stop talking and let you guys start talking. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop you into some wee breakout rooms and you'll have sort of up to 10 minutes to have a wee chat through around what it looks like for you and for your event in terms of those partners that you both need to work with and want to work with. And hopefully this will help you share if you already know what that looks like for your event. And if you are perhaps newer to the event organisation side of things, it'll spur on some of those ideas. So we will pop you into some breakout rooms now. Ashley, I think, and myself, I'll probably end up in one breakout room. Ashley might dip in and out of them. We'll have somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. We'll see how the conversation goes. But yep, if each room can have a wee think of the need and the want partners, and then we'll come back together and discuss some of the key themes that are coming out under each column. We've touched on sort of looking at some of those partners. And now thinking about the pitch. So not just in the sense of sponsors, because this isn't about sponsors. This is about all the partners that you're going to work with. And you are going to have to pitch yourself to all of those different partners. In terms of thinking about sponsors, it is going to be your time to shine. It's going to be your time to sell yourself. But in that practical side, it's also your time to shine. These practical people, they don't need to have your event there. The village hall, they don't have to have you there. Forestry Commission, they can say no. So you want them to pick you. You want them to think, do you know what? That's a really good event. We feel so valued when they ride through our village, when they set off. The riders are so polite. The organizer really appreciates what we do. So it's not just about sponsorship. And I think taking some of the sort of ways and means that you go about pitching yourself to sponsor can actually be really impactful when you think about how you pitch yourself to one of those people that you need to work with and how you make them want to come to your event. So first off, you want to be able to provide as many details about your event as possible. So thinking about fundamentally when it's going to be, where it's going to be. If you're looking to use a village HQ, tell them about the route that you're going to go through, where else you're going to be, who's going to be coming to your event, in terms of attracting some of those perhaps people that you want to work with. Have you got major riders that are going to come? Is there people that are going to bring out the local community that they're going to want to come and see who's racing? What coverage is the event going to pick up? What other partners are you working with? This is something that could be quite important if you're wanting to make your event perhaps more credible. You might want to say that you're working with Scottish cycling. I'm joking there. But you might want to sort of be able to highlight some of those high level partners that you are already working with. If you think it's important to highlight that you're working with the local council when you're trying to communicate with the roads department, again, get those things in there. When you're speaking to the partner, you want to explain clearly what you want from them and why their involvement will make an impact. So it's no use just getting in touch with people and saying, I want support. Tell them exactly what you want from them. They're not mind readers. They don't know what your event does need. And nobody really just wants bags of junk sent out by a sponsor that you're going to have a hard time giving away, that even people on the podium don't want. So make sure you try and get something that will be valuable and impactful for your event. Be really explicit about why you need what you need from them and why do you want to work with them. In terms of thinking about that sponsorship piece, this is your chance to schmooze, but likewise that applies across to all the partners that you will want to work with. Detail out the timelines that are leading into your event. So when are you going to need responses from them? What's the cutoff date for them to be able to confirm stuff? When will you likewise be confirming things with them? And finally, excite and engage them. Your bike races are all awesome. Everyone on this call, I know the things that you do. They're brilliant. They're exactly what we want to be seeing happening. And I think other partners would be just as excited to buy in by that. And this is your chance to make them really know how awesome you are. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump back into some breakout rooms again. Let me just check my time and see how long we're going to be able to have. Perfect. So we're going to go back in for about the same again, 8 to 10 minutes. We'll jump back into our breakout rooms. And we're going to pitch our events to each other. So basically sell your concept. Once you're in the rooms, Ashley, in your room as well, we can get people to think about who they're going to pitch it to. But right now in this main room, I'm going to leave it pretty free. So fab. Okay, so we've done our pitch. We've got our partners hooked right the way across the whole spectrum, from those that we need to work with to those that we want to work with. How are we going to bring that all together in a good strategic format and make sure that we all achieve what we need to achieve from that relationship? And how do we actually maximize it rather than just ticking along? So for all of you, I know that you're not working on your events alone, but try and get that wider team around you and delegate out those partners. So as I was saying previously, if there's someone within your event delivery team that is an absolute sponsorship whiz, maybe that's what they do for their day job, give them that side of it. If there's somebody that's dead into the social media, get them to serve as the sponsors in terms of doing the name checks. On that, always make sure that you get the names of sponsors correct on social media. Don't muddle them up. If there's people that are great on that partnership work, and maybe they already work in the local authorities, in the local councils, if they can manage those relationships for you because they know who to talk to and they know how to talk to them and when to talk to them, delegate those bits out. I appreciate, however, that we have ran through this list at the start of the need and wants, and it was arm's length, and you are volunteers with limited time. So like we said at the start, do prioritise them, and I appreciate how busy you all are. But this is us talking dream world scenarios. Do think about the timelines for different partners. What bits are the essential tasks? As I said earlier, you will get the nagging emails from Scottish Cycling, which are very time sensitive, that you need to get the information to me. But where is the overlap in those things? It's going to sound quite nerdy. A lot of them you maybe do for work anyways, but do you need a Gantt chart for your event? Is that the kind of thing that's going to help you see the overlap in these timescales? What you're going to be needing to do for who and at what time? and how can you actually maximise that? If you're needing to give a risk assessment to Scottish Cycling, are your facility going to be asking for one at the same time? Can you just do that document? Can you just do that email once? Similarly with letting police know, whether it's booking your NEG, letting commissaires know, how much can you do in one go? But do think about how that communication will differ between partners. What you need to send to me in a risk assessment email is maybe going to differ greatly from what you're going to send to the local paper in order to get news of your event out there. So think about what you can duplicate, but also where you do need to individualize it. Most importantly, though, create that value for your partner and show them what that value is. And that's how you will be able to retain them going forwards. So in terms of that retention piece and wanting to be able to work with these people again, first of all, think about, would you do it again? Was it worthwhile? Was it impactful? Was it as easy as just saying to your pal that owns the bike shop, could you chuck us some stuff for some Marshall prizes? Or was it a much bigger thing that really took a lot of time and effort? So you're going to want to evaluate and analyse how effective they were and whether these partnerships contributed to the success of the event, whether they actually made it happen, whether they made it a bit more jazzy, and who they really impacted in terms of what you delivered. So consider what value both partners gained from working together. Was it money well spent? Was it time well spent? Have you got some goodwill that you can build on? Do try think about if there's both qualitative and quantitative measures that you can take in terms of that budget management. Easy peasy to see. The qualitative is a little bit harder maybe to measure, but you should be able to get quotes here and there from people. Go out and seek that feedback. Find out if your event attendees noticed that you had a brilliant new sponsor on board this year. If they didn't, was that down to your communication of that fact? Was it down to what you got from the sponsor wasn't very valuable? And seek feedback from those partners that you worked with. I said Scottish Cycling a lot, but do come and ask us how it was for us, how it was for you, what we could do better, what if there's feedback that you're looking for as well. So in terms of that retention piece, and this I suppose is the nice to do's, but they make such a big impact. So help those partners understand how important they were and the long-term positive impact. It sounds like a nice to have, but thank everyone that actually contributed to making your event happen. So that's the people that you need and the people that you wanted. Yes, you had to have commissaires there standing out in the rain all day. It's nice to thank them. Again, your local communities, the local councils, the village halls, forestry, Scottish Cycling, who were really, really difficult and didn't issue your permit until far too late. Still nice to say thanks. And we'll issue it on time the year following. That's not how we actually work. I mean, I'm joking with you all. Ashley, you can delete that bit of the recording that goes on YouTube, please. Think about who you also need to thank publicly and who you want to thank privately. So is it a case that you're just going to send off a wee quiet email, or do you want to get it up on your event, your club, whatever, social media to really highlight how grateful you are for their support? Is there any kind of wee mementos of your event that you can provide them? Is there a spare leftover medal that you can stick to someone in the post? Is it a photo of all the kids that are beaming with the water bottles from the local bike shop that have been provided? It really goes a long way to make that partner feel valued. Be really explicit about what impact their support enabled you to do and who benefited. Is there a certain number more riders that were able to take part? Was it the fact that your race was able to extend in distance and time? Be really clear and let people know that they were so important. And then finally, set that date for the next year's event or the next event that's going to take place while it's still fresh in their mind and while they're riding on that long, warm, fuzzy glow of seeing how important they were to you. So that is the end of the official presentation, 5 minutes early. I'm going to stop screen sharing.